Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? It obviously is Wednesday evening, and you found In Touch with the Miller Boyzzz, your weekly talk show where we discuss all things impacting the African-American community of the city of Fresno and the larger vicinity. And actually, I should stop saying that, man, because we do more than just the metropolitan area, the area of Fresno. So where we talk about all things impacting black folks, no matter where they are. So anyway, we're back in the studio.
That means you.
As you can see, we're back in the studio after a little, 2 or 3 week hiatus. Every once in a while, we'll go back to doing Zoom stuff where we tape it and then we'll play it in the 8 o'clock hour. But today, you guys got us live and in person. So as I always do, I'm getting a little bit better about this, a little bit more concise. I want to encourage everybody out there under the sound of our voices to go and get your census done. 2020census.gov. A simple site to go to. It's easy to maneuver through. Takes you less than 5 minutes to get your census completed. Remember, the census is by address. It's not by person, it's by address. So you go in there, you type in the address in which you're living, and then you account for everybody that's in the household, whether they live there full-time or whether they live there part-time. There's a way for you to account everybody. The babies who've been here for 2 weeks and grandma that's been here for 110 years. Everybody in the household needs to be accounted. It's important that we do that so that we make sure that we get our financial, the appropriate financial slice of the pie when they go back in there and start divvying up money for social services, programs, roads, streets, schools, all of those types of measures out of the federal coffers. So again, go to 2020census.gov. Make sure you get your census completed. The other thing is, it is election season. And I just found this out, that there are some states that actually will start voting September the 7th, I think it is, whatever that, Labor Day. People are going to be getting their ballots in the mail, and they can go to their elections office in certain states the first Monday in September, which is Labor Day, and start their election cycle during that period of time. And so it's important that you know whether you can vote and where you're registered to vote. And so the universal site for doing that is vote.gov. And it doesn't matter what state you live in, you can go to that site, type in your information, and it will share with you and tell you exactly whether or not you are a registered voter. KP, that's the state site. That's for California folks. That other one is in general. They'll take you to any state and territory in all 50 plus whatever it is as far as the territories. So to go in there, you type in your information. It will tell you exactly where you're registered to vote. And then if that's the correct address, you're good. If it's not the correct address, then you have to go through follow your own state rules in order to get that updated. Here in the state of California is a site that KP just pulled up for us there. It is, what's the site, KP, when you were just at? I know it's at sos.ca.gov, and I want to say it's /register to vote or register. But if you go to sos.ca.gov, that takes you to the state of California's Secretary of State's site. And that's where you can check your registrations if you're in California, specifically for California. But we got to make sure we get that done. I don't know, next week, maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll go through the specific VCAs. You don't remember that term, huh? Voters' Choice Act, which is what is the laws, rules, and regulations that governs us here in California. So I'll go back through that specifically and spend some time on that later on. But right now, just make sure you check your registration at vote.gov, and that is applicable to all of our states, everybody who is registered in the United States. So that's my two service announcements. So, G. Douglas, how you feeling?
I'm just tired, man. Just socially and emotionally drained.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
So is that where you want to start?
Me being tired.
Well, I mean, emotionally and social.
Around Fresno, I don't have too much. I mean, locally, do your part to keep plugging away at the things that make no sense to you. That's all I could tell African Americans and black people that live here. Understand that you live in a world in Fresno that is not your own. I know how my brother feels about Fresno, and I know how my dad feels about Fresno. But this is a putrid place. And I'm going to leave that right there. But more so, the NBA, how do you feel about the folks today making a statement to
I love it.
to not participate in the BS that's going on?
It's not just the NBA. So it's the NBA was the big one, but there's baseball game. NBA did it universally. So all of the playoff games today, I think it was 3 games or 4 games today, were postponed. But there is at least 2 baseball games that I know that got postponed. An MLS soccer game got postponed, and there was another
WNBA game.
WNBA. Okay, so those are
and they showed up with T-shirts with 7 red dots on the back of it.
Who did? WNBA?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that, but I know that they in the listing that I saw, I know there was 4 different leagues that all postponed.
So how do you feel about that?
I felt great about it. And somebody equated this, and I don't remember this necessarily because I was a kid. We were real small, but the athletes in the 60s did the same thing in the 64 Olympics when they were in Mexico City. So 63, 4, 5, 6, John Carlos and them. That's the last time that people are saying that there were athletes, in particular black athletes, who were taking a stand, protesting games, sitting out of games, using their voice and their platform to speak up about the injustices that were going on at that particular time. And so I love it. I absolutely love it.
We don't count Colin Kaepernick in that?
Colin Kaepernick was an individual. He was part of that also, and I'm not discrediting or discarding him, but he did that as an individual. And there was a small group of other individuals who joined with him. When you got a whole league, in this particular case the NBA, saying we're not going to participate because it's not right. Did you hear Doc Rivers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, that was, dude, I almost started crying myself. Got choked up listening to him because what he said was absolutely to the point. And for those of you who have not seen it, please Google Doc Rivers, who's the head basketball coach for the Clippers, and listen to what he said, the statement that he made today in absence of this team playing, taking the court. I mean, it's right on the mark.
So the question that I have is, how do you feel when you see? Because I have watched the Republican convention as well. You know,
better than me.
MSNBC is allowing them to speak and say their piece, and then they go back and fact check them right on the spot. Like, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. But what I've noticed is Donald Trump has all of these Negroes.
I'm going to talk about that too.
Okay.
That's on my list.
Running in front of the camera, singing and dancing about how great the Republican Party is. And
how great he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is the Republican Party. There was a guy on one of the shows, I think it was CNN, talking about just that fact, that the Republican Party is no longer the party of sensibility. It is Donald Trump. And
it's no longer the party of conservatism.
And we have, well, it's the party of Donald Trump.
Right.
So now he's not conservative. He's an individualist ideologue. He is an opportunist. He is a very, very failed businessman. But you have these, well, I ain't even call names. You have these African Americans on there that are mostly older than 50 years old, touting his record. And I'm just thinking to myself, how does the site, and you know, I always say that the African American community is schizophrenic, but how do you justify in a world in which you live in, or a country in which you live in, where a person can be shot in the back for going to his car? You can't tell me it's unjustifiable. It's just unjustifiable. And And then 2 days later, you have a 17-year-old white boy running around with an assault weapon in the street, killing 2 people because they're at a Black Lives Matter protest. Mm-hmm. And he gets taken into custody and with the gun strapped around his back by the police, and he's living and no harm has come to him.
He didn't get pulled over with that gun. He didn't get arrested till the day. He got away. He went home. He went back to Indiana. He went back across, not Indiana. He went back to Illinois, across the state line. Kenosha's there, and I guess the city that he is right on the border. I guess he went 30 miles south and across state lines into Illinois, and that's where he went home, and that's where he was detained. So basically, you have it's a federal crime now because he went across state lines.
So did you see the images of him walking right past the police officer?
He walked up to one.
Right.
He got the.
Okay. So how do we rationalize that activity in a country that we live in that's supposed to protect us?
You asked two deep questions.
Answer them both.
So the first one about the African Americans who were there at the Republican Party convention, justifying it is, I bring up Django, and what was the dude's name? Tom, Cyrus, Silas, the one that took care of
Keith.
You know what I'm talking about? The white, bushy eyebrows. I can't. Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson's character, whatever the name was in Django. Steven. There you go, Steven. You ain't seen the memes today? I didn't even think about that, but it absolutely.
No, I don't.
So how did the Stevens of the 1840s, 1830s, 1820s were in bondage? How did they rationalize feeling as though they were part of the family? They were part of the inner circle. They were part of the big house. It's that same type of rationality that's going on with these Republicans, these black Republicans who are backing Donald Trump. Because there's also black Republicans such as Michael Steele, who used to be the head of the Republican National, not the convention, but the party, who he said Donald Trump is the worst president ever known to man. He's still a conservative. He's a staunch conservative, but he's African American, but he ain't part of the Kool-Aid drinking Trumpsters.
Well, most black people are conservative. Would you agree or would you
Not
disagree?
politically. I wouldn't agree politically.
I'm talking about as a lifestyle.
Oh yeah. But we got to clarify that though. When you say conservative, when you talking about Michael Steele, I'm talking about his political ideology. Same thing like with Colin Powell. He's a staunch conservative, Republican conservative, but he doesn't back Donald Trump. They got off that ship a long time ago. Those people
let me push into this a little bit. So you don't think most African Americans are politically conservative?
No.
And you're saying that only as in namesake?
In political ideologies and activities, no. They do not ascribe, most African Americans do not ascribe to conservative, traditional Republican and conservative ideologies. Most of the black conservatives that I know of fall into 2 categories. Either they're very wealthy or they're out of the military, or I shouldn't say just the military, but they're out of military, police departments, those type of things. Those are the only 2 real categories that I know personally of black Republicans. I don't know no dudes off the street that's like us, that ain't real wealthy, who grew up in Butler Park, one exception, but he's a military badge guy, who ascribes to conservative ideologies. I don't know them. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but I'm just saying I don't know of anyone like that. On a national scale, most of the Republicans, not Trumpers, but Republicans that I keep up with are conservative, and they're rich, wealthy. They're doing very well. So, because a conservative thought is about cutting taxes, getting government out of your lives. They don't think the government, the role of government is not to dictate lives. They'll tell you that. Those are conservative ideologies. Trumpsters, on the other hand, Trump was pro-life at one point in time. Trump was a Democrat at one point in time.
Yeah, we're talking.
Trump. I'm just saying he's an opportunist. Wherever it is.
I'm talking about African Americans as conservatives. Trump is a whole different platypus.
No, to answer your question, then no. I do not believe that most, at least from my examples, most of the black folks.
I think that African American people are pushed into a situation where they are survivalists.
Correct.
And because the government has social constructs that are not available to most African Americans, like universal health care, universal social security. You don't put in the social security if you're not working. I
didn't realize till recently. I'm not, when I retire as an educator, I can't draw Social Security. I never put into Social Security. I don't know what all the rules are, but I just found that out a couple of years ago.
You paid into PERS or STIRS.
PERS and STIRS, right.
Yeah, as a person who worked for the city of Fresno, because they're a private entity, that's not an option either. So going back to work after the nightmare, which was the city of Fresno, I had to make sure that I have so many quarters to get my. But I, worked for Liquor Barn and for other places for a long enough time to where it pushed me much closer than I needed to be. But no, I think that if it were all even, that I think African Americans would be more conservative in their understandings, because most African Americans are not.
You have to define conservative for me, because I don't think we're using conservative in the same.
I know we're not, but
okay.
I'm saying conservative as in the religious aspect of conservatism. They're not.
What's the conservative viewpoint on religion?
Now I always get these mixed up. But pro-life, most African Americans are against abortion. That would be a conservative thought, correct? Most African Americans believe in.
So let me ask you this question. Let me reverse it, because this is a conversation I just had 2 or 3 days ago with a conservative. Tell me one person who is for abortion.
In the right circumstances, I would be for abortion.
Are you for abortion, or are you for a woman's right to choose whether or not to have an abortion?
Explain the difference.
The difference is, on my liberal side, abortion and killing children and stuff, I'm not with that.
Okay.
But I don't believe that
when you say killing children, are we having this discussion about when a life starts, or this, that, and the other? No.
It's a life. I mean, it's a
embryo. See, right. Okay. Well, right there, I would consider you a conservative African American.
No, not even close.
Okay.
Because it's not. I disagree with the death
and that portion of the conversation. Yes, I would. That's a conservative value.
But it's a oxy. That's not even a moot point.
That's not.
Nobody is pro. I have not met a person.
Oh, there are people out there. There
that are pro-abortion.
Heck yeah.
No
abortion.
No, I disagree.
Okay. Well, have you ever heard of abortion as being used as birth control?
Yes.
So they go out, get pregnant, have an abortion. Go back out, get pregnant, have an abortion.
I haven't heard of that recently, but yes, in my 54 years on Earth, yes, I have heard of.
Well, that would be a person that would be pro-abortion.
Okay, so that's a very, very, very.
It doesn't. We're not gonna We're not going to talk about the minuscule. There's only 8% African Americans in Fresno, California. So anytime you talk about African Americans in Fresno, then it's a very minuscule.
But even a smaller part of African American community is for abortion.
Okay.
Most African Americans or people who are liberals are not pro-abortion. They're anti-imposing upon a woman what she can do with her body.
I disagree with that the same way you disagree with what you're telling me.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, that's fine. So I would say that you're a conservative because of what you're sharing with me right now. Your mindset, your thought process that you just shared with this example about abortion, being pro-abortion or being pro-choice. If you decide that being anti-abortion is more important than anti-choice, then that is a conservative ideology. And like I said, I don't know of anybody that's pro-abortion. I know plenty of people, lots of people who are pro-choice. And that goes back to racism and white supremacy. Why do we, as a society, in our role, believe that we should dictate to a person what they can and cannot do?
You just jumped over alligators, crocodiles, piranhas, and all kind of stuff to try and make a point, and put me on the other side of that bridge. I agree to a point that people should have the right, in most circumstances, to make their own decisions based on what it is. But for the lady that runs out there and has 34 kids and can't take care of them, I don't think that's. I think that there's something else that is going on there where she needs mental help.
Could be.
I think that there's something else out there to where her children might need to be taken away from her so that they can be raised.
Could be.
And a different thing. But I don't think that.
So you think that a person.
I don't think that someone should be able to do that. No, I don't.
Do what?
To have 34 kids and can't take care of them. I surely don't. That's not being responsible.
So then who makes the decision as to whether or not that's responsible or not?
Society would make that decision.
And I think that's what the pushback is about. Is that the people don't believe, and even on the conservative side, they don't believe the government should be involved in forcing people to make decisions, except for when it comes to abortion. They believe that the government should prevent women from getting abortion. So for me, all that whole thing is an argument of convenience. Whatever side of the fence that you're on, you're going to form your argument to meet your convenience.
That's all that everything is about. But that's what you're doing now. You're formulating your opinion and your argument for convenience so that you can win the argument.
No, I'm pro-choice.
Okay.
There's consequences for all your choices. There's consequences for the things that you do.
When you say pro-choice, you are in the league of people that believe that women should have the choice to have an abortion or not. Correct.
They should choose whether or not they should have an abortion, whether or not they have the baby, whether or not they give that baby up for adoption. Yes, they need to have. Yes, I believe a woman should have the choice to be able to do that. That should not be dictated upon her, with some exceptions.
Okay.
There are some exceptions. You have people who rape and incest. You have people who don't have the mental capacities to be able to handle those types of responsibilities, those type of things. Yeah, those are the minuscule components. I see people all the time talk, so conservatives, the conservative argument will tell you shouldn't have abortions, you shouldn't have abortions, you shouldn't have abortions. But as soon as your ass turn 18, you should go fight in a war outside of the country representing the United States of America. How are you pro-life at inception or close to inception, but you're not pro-life when a kid turns and becomes responsible at the age of 18, 19?
Do you think that every person that turns when they turn 18, that they should go into the military and for service for a minimum of two-year period or 3-year period?
No, not the military. But I do believe it would be in the United States of America's best interest if kids, when they turned 18, they had to give 2 years or 18 years of service back to society, whether it be Peace Corps, whether it be something like the Conservation Corps, those type of things. I think that would be a great maneuver or a great position for the United States of America to be in. Not all military. It doesn't have to be all military. They can go and volunteer to be work on Capitol Hill for 18 months, work at Sacramento in the state government. There's all types of ways that I think our students, our young people, could benefit from those types of experiences, as well as America as a whole and society could benefit from those kids being involved in that. We got a shortage of teachers. So think about this, and I'm jumping down to one of the things. We have now, for the first time in the last 80 years, there are more people, more Americans under the age of 40 than over. So where are the next group of political leaders, the next group of principals, the next group of superintendents, the next group of police chiefs, the next group of correctional officers, and all the people who lead all those type of things? Where are they going to get trained from? At some point in time here, in the next 20 years or so, it's going to be babies training babies. It's going to be 40-year-olds training 40-year-olds, 40-year-olds training 30. So we better get ready for that. And I just think that being able to provide service of some sort back to society, I think, is a good thing.
Well, I think that every person that turns 18 should go to the military for 2 years. You can give a service and garner that understanding. It doesn't have to be wartime. Doesn't have to be. I mean, they can do exactly what you're talking about. If everybody was joining the military at 18, you would have surplus pockets to have infrastructure rebuild. You would have surplus pockets to tell people that this is where they need to go, or this is over here is where they need to go. And I do believe that. Do I think it'll ever happen here in the United States of America? No. But back to your 40-year-olds teaching 40-year-olds, 77-year-olds and 70. How old is Donald Trump? 74-year-olds. They're not going to get out of the way.
They're going to die.
Well, that goes back to what I've been saying to everybody about the next 12 years. You know, Biden's going to be the president for the next 4 years, and Kamala Harris is going to be the president for the next 8 years. That's 12 years. Your population that is 40 will now be sitting where we are at 52, 53, 54, 55 years old. That older population will be gone. And who are you saying are going to be the leaders? It's going to be us. Because
it's going to skip right over us. I believe it's going to skip right over our generation, because I don't know what the exact figures are, but there is way more of that 30-40 group than there are of us in the 50-60 group. Way more. So when you start talking about just sheer numbers, if that group of 30 and 40-year-olds ever materialize, get themselves together to be participating in voting, they're going to jump right over us. Our generation, we will not hold substantial number of positions in politics if that 30 to 40-year-old group gets their act together.
So what you're saying is that 30 to 40-year-old group are going to sit there and have to relearn the mistakes of the past because the older generation refuses to teach them, and the 70s, 60s, 70s now, and they're not going to listen to our generation.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be another struggle, transition of power, and I think that's what you're saying right now. That's what I kind of see is happening now, is that the baby boomer generation, which is where Trump and Biden, mom and daddy is all out of, is in direct conflict because they're losing power with not our generation, but with the generations behind us, our kids' generation. That's where I see the loggerhead and the conflict coming on, and it has to do with sheer numbers. The X's and Y's, our generation, for whatever reason, they wasn't Baby boomers wasn't having babies like they're the best generation, beautiful generation, whatever it was, the one that was before them, the ones that fought in World War II.
I haven't studied to see that those folks, because to me they're in the way. I mean, it's going to sound harsh, but they're in the way. They have a, make America great again. I'm trying to find something that I put on.
But you think about why they're in the way. It's because there's so many of them.
No, they're in the way because they want to go sit their asses down and get out of the way. Everybody wants to run what they want to run. Everybody is interested in the power play of being in charge and putting their stamp. That's why they won't go get out of the way.
Power is intoxicating. Power and money is intoxicating.
I don't care about power and money being intoxicating. What I'm talking about is the understanding that people are in the way and they will not get out of the way.
So why are they not getting out of the way?
Because they don't have to get out of the way.
Why don't they have to get out of the way?
Because they've been there and they've figured out how to stay in the way.
Because there's more of them.
Have you ever heard of a movie called In This Our Life with Betty Davis?
Mm-mm.
I took the time Saturday to watch this, and it was made in 1942, and Trump was born in 1947, and that, what you're talking about and we're talking about, is what is depicted in this movie. The mindset that this old rich man and his niece, Betty Davis, was trying to get at his money, so she's going to have drinks with her uncle, and remember the movie was made in 42, do whatever it needs to do to win his confidence so that he could pay for her lifestyle. So they're a rich family. She goes out, she gets in a car accident, kills a little girl because she's drinking at a bar and doing all these kind of things. And what do you think she does? Blames it on the black butler. This has been going on since 1942, not because there's a difference of opinion or anything. This is the mindset that has been ingrained in this population, this older population. And they're just as greedy and want to keep things the way they were when they were young. That's what make America great again. What do you mean? Get your ass out the way and sit down again. That's what needs to happen. And allow the young people to come in. There's going to be some mistakes that are being made. But people like to be comfortable. That's what I think people like, and so these older people they're not gonna move. Like I say, Kamala Harris, if when Biden wins, she'll be the president for the next 8 years after that. She's gonna be in her 60s then?
She'll be yeah.
So who will be the next president after that?
Somebody out of the AOC group. And then there'll be the young lady out of New York.
I
wouldn't be surprised if she
so.
I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't challenge Kamala Harris in 4 years.
She's gonna okay. I think she would. She's gonna start striking people the wrong way.
What people is she striking the wrong way?
The people that she needs for the support.
Be more specific.
Democratic people.
No, she's not.
Okay.
The only Democratic people.
Okay.
The only Democratic people that she's upsetting is the old guard.
Okay.
Not I keep telling you about the new guard. These numbers.
Well,
she's in that 30-year-old group.
I believe that she's going to step on her own crank. And the new guard is going to chuck her in the bushes.
Okay. I'll be interested. I mean, I'm curious as to what you base that on, because right now the only reason why I think she didn't run for vice president or wasn't even considered for vice president in these talks is because she doesn't qualify. She's not old enough. You got to be 35 years.
You think he would? Okay.
Yeah, I do believe that if she was 35 years old, she would have been on that short list of people in that conversation for a lady of color to be vice president. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. But the 50-year-old group, our group, we're going to be skipped right over and be challenged.
I don't see that. I don't believe that.
Okay. It's a numbers game. It's sheer numbers. There's way more.
It's power and clout.
So think about this.
What's your next topic? We don't even need to discuss that. We're at two different places. You're not going to convince me of that, and I'm not
trying to convince you. I'm trying to give you some information.
I don't need it because I don't need it because I'm not believing in that philosophy, and there's nothing that you can tell me to make me believe in that philosophy. So I don't need it.
Okay, and you talked about conservative mindsets. That's a conservative mindset.
Who said I was liberal?
No, I'm just using it as an example. That's a conservative mindset. I know what I know what I know. I don't need any more information because I know what I know what I know.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that there's not some information out there that's important and germane to the conversation. But I know what I know what I know. Don't give me that. Don't get in the way with all them other issues and other facts and all the. I don't need all that. I know what I know what I know. That's a conservative mindset.
Okay.
And that's not.
I do believe that I am a Democratic, but I believe that I am a conservative person based on the way I was raised and my influences. So yeah, I agree. Okay. I agree.
So the under 40s, I was telling you about, this the biggest group. Mm-hmm. That's not their mindset.
Okay.
They don't deal in political parties. They don't deal in social organizations. They are about issues.
Okay.
And so it's going to be a big change over the next 20 years. Our political ideologies, our political leadership, the things that are going on with our political parties is going to change dramatically, and it's all going to be because of that big group between 30s and 40s that's coming up. They're going to be the change makers in this next political push. We talked about most of the stuff on here that I want to talk about. A little bit more about the Jacob Blake situation. I finally saw that tape today, and you kind of spoke on it earlier, that it was indefensible, the actions of the police officers. And I wanted to bring that up because of some of the conversations that I've had, social media conversations with some of my conservative friends. It goes back to that same ideology that if he just would have complied, this wouldn't have happened. And I'm like, Castile, the dude in Minnesota, he complied, got shot.
That's a cop-out. If he just complies, it's a cop-out.
Well, I agree. I agree, but that is some of my conservative-minded friends, our conservative-minded friends on here, that's their response. And so I got, I had an exchange yesterday, dude. I said, look, dude, I love you dearly, but we got to cut this out. We can't have these conversations no more because this doesn't make any sense to me. Every time I tell you about a negative incident that impacts black people, you want to push back with
Chicago. They're killing each other in Chicago.
Exactly.
How come black people, if Black Lives Matter, how come they're killing each other in Chicago?
So the last one, have you seen the meme? It's a cartoon meme, and it says, we said Black Lives Matter. We never said only Black Lives Matter. I don't remember what the third and fourth lines are in it. That's the meme that we went back and forth on. And he's talking about using bad examples for this and that. What do you mean bad examples? I don't get it. I heard a lady this evening on radio talking about it goes back to our accessibility to what's going on. Black folks are not surprised that young man got shot in the back. They're not surprised that Breonna Taylor got shot in her house through the window while she was in her bed. It's America who is surprised and shocked by those types of events because now they have to say it's no longer bad apples. It's not a matter of that the Minnesota Police Department is a one-off, they're the exception to the other municipalities' police departments. because you got these incidents all over the country. And because of people's accessibility to seeing it, we don't believe what people tell us, we have to see it. Because people are seeing it more and more and more and more and more, I think she was saying that's where this big, huge push is coming from. And I tend to agree with her. Black people are not surprised by that young man getting killed. We're frustrated, we're tired, I don't even know what all the adjectives are to describe that. White America, or non-black America, not just white America, but non-black America is shocked by that.
Shocked that
That kid, that police officer, shot that young man in the back 7 times.
Do you think they're really shocked by that?
I do. I do. Think about this. If I was a mass pedophile, I have been messing around with kids, boys and girls, underage boys and girls, for the last 30 years. The Millers have a dilemma now. If as long as it's just words and rumors and people saying things about me, it's, you can kind of ward those off. But if somebody catches me on tape, now the Millers have got to admit that Darren Miller, one of my son, my brother, my dad, my grandfather, my cousin, this portion of the Miller family did something heinous. And they have to deal with that. And I believe that's what America's going through.
So let me ask you that question. How come the Millers then couldn't just say, okay, yeah, you're right, and move on?
It takes a hell of a person to be able to do that. You have to then admit that something that you believe in is wrong. And that's not easy for people to do.
Okay, true. I understand because people don't want to be wrong or
Correct.
Associated with negativity. But the truth is the truth. And so I understand what you're saying, and I understand the shortcomings of people. Okay, but it's for this country, it's even more insidious than what you just described. White folks in the United States have been killing black folks without consequence for as long as this place has been in existence.
Correct. And
So white folks, Caucasians, Europeans, believe that is okay for them to do.
Why? Why do they believe it's okay for them to do?
Because that is the mindset that has been the norm for so long.
Correct.
It doesn't make them feel any worse. It doesn't make them
comply. He was resisting.
No,
he was in the wrong place, the wrong time. It was a mistake. I thought he was someone else. There was always been justified. But America's coming to the realization, I believe, as well as the young lady I was listening to earlier, America's coming to the realization there is no justification for how Floyd was killed. There is no justification for that boy taking 7 bullets in his back. There is no justification for that. They want to say because he had a warrant or something. They're trying to come up with a narrative now that fits the script. Breonna Taylor. There is no justification for what they did to Breonna Taylor.
So what you need to understand is the justification for that is that I'm white and I can do what I want to do because I've been doing it for so long.
And that's what I agree. But America has to now, because of the video evidence, they see it with their eyes. They are shocked by that.
No, they're not. No, they're not. And not only are they not shocked by that, they're scrambling to justify that. They're scrambling to make it okay, to fit in the premise like they've done so many other times.
Why do Trumpers not accept Trump's proven fallacies? That he is not a good businessman. He's had them 7 or 6 bankruptcies. He had a casino. The people say casinos can never lose money, and he ran it into the ground. That he had sex with underage females. That he paid Stormy,
So what is your question? Why do Trumpers believe that?
Yeah.
Because for them to not believe that would decrease their power on this planet.
If somebody showed a tape of Donald Trump engaged in those illicit actions, not all the Trumpers, but I am convinced that some of the Trumpers would then have to rectify why are they supporting, in particular, the evangelicals. Okay, you can discard that, but that's why I believe that's the only way he's getting away with this stuff is because it's all verbiage.
He has told you himself, oh, I could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody down the middle of the street and get away with it.
If they got that hooker on tape shooting somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and it's witnessed by folks, he can't talk his way out of that. He can try to justify.
They do it, not Trump. White America, Europeans do it every time an African American is shot.
And things are changing. Hence, the actions that's going on in Kenosha, whatever that town is. Hence, what happened with George Floyd, which is still going on with George Floyd. Hence, what is going on with Breonna Taylor.
And they still haven't arrested them.
Okay, but I'm just...
You have people running around here saying that George Zimmerman was right for killing Trayvon Martin.
He was legal.
You have...
He was legal. That's why he got off, unfortunately. He wasn't right. He wasn't correct.
So you've heard people say, no, he wasn't right by doing that. But it was justified because it was legal.
That's why his ass is not in jail.
The question is, are you hearing people say that? Or are you hearing people say, no, he was right. He was right. He had a right to kill him. Okay. The officer that killed Michael Brown, the government cleared him of that. And so that's why he's not. All of those shootings were wrong. Okay?
George Zimmerman's shooting was legal. By the laws of the state of Florida, his shooting was legal. Wasn't right, wasn't justified, shouldn't have happened, but it was legal.
It was deemed legal. And whomever is in charge of the legal system, and then we had this conversation a couple months back, whenever they can argue the fact that it is legal to do whatever it is, even though it's not legal, yes, it's legal.
How can something that's not legal be legal?
Okay, so the guy who Trump just pardoned or exonerated or whatever he did to him, is that legal or illegal?
His act that he got convicted of was illegal, and he was found guilty of that.
Okay.
In the rule book of the United States of America, they give power to the president to be able to pardon people for committing federal crimes.
So now, is he still a convicted felon?
Yes. Yes, he is still a convicted felon.
And he has to answer to.
Yes, it does not expunge his record. It just frees him from being detained, being locked up.
Okay.
He can't run for office.
There's some other justification.
There are some other restrictions that goes along with that. He's still guilty, but he just got released.
Okay.
So expungement is the term that gets rid of your record. Pardon just means it's not an expungement.
Exactly. Okay. All right.
So anyway, I'm where we started out with the basketball thing is another example that I would give you of things changing.
Things are changing all the time.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that the change, the act of the change is going to stick. They're going to be playing basketball tomorrow, the next day. And this will be a boop in the road. Now, if they were to say, we're not going to play basketball again until that cop that shot that man in the back 7 times is arrested, Breonna Taylor's shooters are arrested and put in jail, then I would have some hope. But just because you sit out one day, and it is a start, and it is action in the right direction, that don't mean shit.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
When you start talking about you're not going to do certain things until certain things, you got to also take in account your contractual.
Well, if you're going to make a commitment to people that look like you to do the right thing, and you have morals and who cares about contractual responsibility?
And maybe you do, maybe you don't know. But can you name? I can name 2 people. I can name 2 African Americans that I know of who gave up everything for their moral stance. Out of the 60s, out of the movement that I was telling you about, there were 2. Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they weren't joined by other people. Lou Alcindor, who else is part of that group? I don't remember who else was. Bill Russell.
The point is
that they impacted change by the thing that they were doing.
And what was the change that they got?
The people, Kurt Flood was able to not become property of the St. Louis Cardinals. He became the first free agent and was able to move around. Happened during that period of time in the 60s. Basically, athletes were no longer property of the team ownership. So that was one of the big things that came out of there. Their ability to express themselves and to do things. I don't know exactly how to say the expression of
taking a knee.
Could have been taking a knee, although they weren't
staying off of the floor as Rauf and praying in the tunnels.
Okay. So prior to taking a knee, this was the sign of protest. So Colin Kaepernick in modern day time took a knee. John Carlos and not Lee Evans. John Carlos and Tommy Smith.
Plain and simple, without all that, if these athletes want to make a statement, stop doing what you're doing. Just go. Because of XYZ, I'm out the bubble. I'm not playing anymore.
Okay. I just think that I agree. That is showing the ultimate conviction. I just don't think that because the money is so great now, I don't think that people are going to do that.
Exactly. I don't think they'll do it either. But if you got the nuts for it, and that's what you sitting there standing and protesting, then do that.
Yeah. I am tickled pink with what's going on. I'm tickled pink with.
I'm happy that they made a stance to not play also, but I want to see where this is gonna go, because like Jerry Jones said, this is my team. You little nigglets better get out there and do your thing.
He gonna catch some heat. He been catching some heat already, but he gonna get some more heat. So think about this, Joe. The George Floyd situation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is not just an American issue. Also, it is a world issue. Every what I can't even think of the soccer league. I can't remember what league it is now. It's not. I don't believe it's the Premier League. The Premier League is not playing right now. I forget which league it is now. I was watching.
Which country is it in?
Was it the UEFA? No, wasn't the UEFA Cup. I don't remember. Anyway, it might have been Spain. No, I don't remember. Germany. Maybe it was Germany. Maybe it was the German league. But in there, before every game, they would kneel. They would do it on the sidelines. They would do it on the field before the match would play, in paying homage to or recognizing and respecting what happened with George Floyd and the struggles that we were having here. I think it might have been the German. I think it was the German league.
It was the Champions League.
The Champions League? Okay. So I knew it was one of them soccer leagues. I didn't know exactly which one it was, but I know I was watching it. And they would get in their position, and when right before the official would blow the whistle to start the game, everybody on the field would take a knee. and then they would get up and they would play. So I just, the Germans under Hitler's rule did what they did until people started seeing it. They were told about it. They were told what he was doing. Nobody believed it. Nobody believed it. Even the United States of America, there are American businesses that had interest and was doing business with the Nazis and with Hitler. Oh, he couldn't do all that. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that until
Big Daddy Bush,
Big Grandpa Bush, the pilot. Can't think what old boy's name is now. There's a movie about that. But until there was actual confirmation that what he was accused of doing, people saw the Jewish people who were emancipated in these ovens and all that kind of stuff. That's when everything changed. I think the same phenomenon is happening with us here.
So you don't think that Europeans in the United States have seen all these shootings that have been all over the news?
Yeah, but they all been justified. He was resisting arrest. There was always an answer, a response. George Floyd, there is no justification for having your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes.
Oh yeah, there is. The latest is that he was high on methamphetamine.
Okay, they're reaching.
They reach every time.
They're reaching for,
and that's my point. They reach every time,
right? And
they grab a solution every single time.
I agree. They're reaching for one with George Floyd. There is not one. And America is going to have to reconcile that these Protect Blue, these officers that are supposed to be these bad apples, it ain't a bad apple. It's a bad apple grove. It's a bad system and a structure.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think there's a such thing as a good officer?
Yeah, I believe that there are officers that go out to protect and serve. They want to engage their communities. They want to treat bad guys as bad guys, and they want to treat good guys as good guys. Yes, I do believe that there's officers that are in that situation.
Okay.
And I think there's more of them than there are officers who want to treat everybody, all black people as bad actors, all people live in the ghetto, all impoverished people as bad actors. There's more of my definition of good cops than there are of bad cops. But there is a significant number of bad cops that, unfortunately, their actions outweighs the good that's being done by their counterparts. So anyway, we're up against it. Again, please make sure that you go to 2020census.gov, get your census information completed. Make sure you go to vote.gov to be able, this is anywhere in the country, to check your voter registration status. Please make sure that you're registered to vote, and make sure you vote in October. Don't wait till November 3rd on Election Day. Make sure you make a plan, have a plan of action, so when you get your ballot, you can get it out of your hands in October. And I'll have more information about that here in the next couple of weeks.
And if you're able to have a registered weapon, you need to go and buy your registered weapon, learn how to use said weapon, and dig a hole in the ground in the front yard, maybe in the backyard.
All right. KP. Yes, oh, man, he looked like a bandit in there. Check you out. Anyway, until next week, we'll see you guys next Wednesday in the 8 o'clock hour. Again, you've been watching In Touch with the Miller Boyzzz, your weekly talk show where we talk about all things impacting the black people that look just like me and him. Until next week, see you guys.
I'm white this week.
Peace.